Hi everyone, it's Kimberly from the Westmont Public Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make art with colorful sand. You may have heard this technique referred to as sand drawing or sand painting, but it's been a technique that's been around for many years and used for a variety of cultures all throughout history. There are several different ways to do this, and it is, fair warning, a very messy technique, or can be a messy technique. So if you have the space to do it outside, I highly recommend it. But otherwise, there are several different ways that you can use colorful sand to make art projects right at home. Let's get started. Traditionally, colored sands for drawing and paintings were made of things like crushed stones, shells, or charcoal. Here's a recipe with several different options for making your own colorful sand right at home. Now we're ready to go. The first method uses the colorful sand as a fill for coloring book sheets. I recommend starting with a tray or dish underneath your page to catch any free-falling sand. Now that I have all my materials laid out, I'm going to start out by filling certain areas, white spaces of this coloring sheet with glue. I'm also going to go ahead and use a paintbrush to help better distribute the glue because the lines on this sheet are so fine. And then once the area is all filled, I'm going to go ahead and just start freely covering the area with my sand. You may have also used this technique with glitter and glue at other projects. This is the same concept. I'm gonna dig into my big bag of homemade sand. I'll just finish it right in the center there. And then once it's all filled up, I'm going to gently lift the paper to reveal the area where the color filled. This next project uses shapes and frames to make a picture. This method is great if you have leftover scrap paper, paper doilies, or even an old picture frame that you're looking to recycle. I'm going to start out by filling this area with some paper cutouts that I have. And just gently layering the sand over each space. The most important part is really just going to be covering up the white space that I see poking out. And to do this, I'm just going to take a popsicle stick. You can do this really with anything else. You can use a ruler and just measure it out and kind of smooth it out over the entire space so that all the white space is covered. Once that's done, I'm going to gently, as close to gentle as possible, remove the layers of the paper that I laid down, and then just smooth out any of the edges that might have some residual sand. Ooh, it's tricky. There we go. This is a great method just to kind of practice with kind of even distribution of sand. It's essentially like tracing, but kind of a little bit different negative space project. And then I'm just going to smooth out the edges. Now that I've had some practice, I'm going to try a freehand drawing technique. A great way to introduce this is by spelling out your name with the sand. At the center of my palm, I'm going to fill about a tablespoon's worth of colorful sand. And by gently clenching and relaxing your hand, you're going to control the amount of sand that is released in order to make the form you'd like. This does take practice and is a little bit harder than it looks. I'm also tempted to use my shorter version of my name, Kim, but for the video's sake, I will spell out my whole name. Occasionally refilling the palm of my hand. You want to make sure that you don't have so much that it's leaking through the cracks in your fingers. I did speed it up a little bit here. And ran out of room, but that's okay. I just got another sheet of paper. L-Y. There we go. Woohoo! If you found yourself having a bit of trouble with the hand method and controlling how much was released, there is a better way to control the amount of sand, creating a cone using a circle cutout of paper. I'm just cutting a line here that will reach the center of the circle, and then we'll roll both ends together and secure it with a piece of tape. Next, I'm just going to cut out the top to the size hole that I like. And I will use this to hold my sand and then just essentially control what comes out by using my finger. For this one, I will just put my black sand directly in the cone. I forgot that I'm right-handed, so I'm just going to do a quick switch. And we'll begin freely, just making a design. If you find your sand getting a little clogged into the bottom cutout that you made, a technique that you can use to kind of help free it and also keep the sand moving slow enough to where you don't have a fast little pile forming is just to give it a gentle tap with your index finger. And just slowly keep making your shape. The nice thing about a project like this is that it's not exactly about the final result. It's really just about enjoying what you're making and being patient, which I know can sometimes be challenging, but makes it a little bit more fun when we're using a more sensory material like sand. I'm going to use my popsicle stick and some of my other tools like paintbrushes. You can add a couple more details this way. It is nice keeping a brush on hand because it will make cleaning up some of these spaces, and if you do have a lot of excess sand coming off, you can just kind of brush it all away. Which is again why I mentioned earlier, if you do have the option to do this project outside, I highly recommend it. I recently just bought a new vacuum and thought that this project was and the new vacuum was up to the challenge, so I felt pretty confident here. I am going to go back to the hand method just to help fill in some of the spaces. I also have very big hands, so that could be why I find this a little bit easier. But it's each person's preference, whatever you'd like to use. I'm just going to color it in the same way I would using a marker or colored pencils. It's no different. The spoon is a nice tool to kind of brush up and kind of blend in some of the colors that you're using. Add a couple more details. This, I guess, is kind of a little bit of a flower shape, but again, you don't really have to do any design in particular. You can do a nature scene, you could try to draw a specific object, you could spell out your name, or you can just kind of go with the flow and make a bunch of different shapes and just see what kind of looks interesting and whatever it is you truly are enjoying making. I'm going to use some of my homemade sand to fill in some gaps here. My homemade sand is a little bit grainier than the fine colored sand that I have, but that's okay. It still cleans up just the same. In many different cultures, the whole point of working with this medium was because it is difficult to preserve. While you can glue it down on your surface, many people would ultimately create intricate designs and pictures for them just to be blown away by a gust of wind. You may have heard of sandcastle building contests when the tide comes in and washes everyone's work away at the end of the day. And I know it might feel a little frustrating, but it's ultimately just giving you another opportunity to be creative. I hope you guys enjoy this and discover a new art form to try. For more WPL Kids programming videos, be sure to check out our YouTube channel.